Hi guys, Luton here, back for some more Dragon's Teeth DLC, and here we are on Propaganda playing Conquest. Now, I want to talk about Conquest a bit, because Conquest plays out a bit different on Dragon's Teeth than it does on the other maps that we've had so far, and it's a really positive thing. In fact, everybody I played with this evening commented about the fact that it felt very different, played much better than it does on the other maps. The main reason for this is the lack of constant air superiority. The air superiority in the other game modes is just, let's be honest, a fucking pain in the ass. They're just always on you, spamming you down, and it means you often just feel like you can't get into the game mode. And you know, when I was talking with the guys in the game last night, and you know, I was asking them, oh, bad luck, buddy. When I was talking to the guys in the game last night, and I said, what do you feel about this? How do you feel it's different? Do you think it's a good thing? Especially on Propaganda, look, we've got no air support whatsoever. It's tanks and ground vehicles. It's a ground pounding round. And you know, you're kind of surprising for a map of this size. You think there'd be a scout heli or something on here. But yeah, so for that reason, and you know, all the guys basically said they really liked it. They were like, this plays so much better, it plays out really well, it feels much more kind of like sort of Battlefield, you know, you're really on the ground fighting, and you know, I enjoyed the hell out of it. I really did as well. I think personally it's far better. But the guys were surprised. They said, Luton, don't you know, you love air stuff, you love like the scout heli and the attack and the transport, and you know, it's true, I do, I like those helicopters. But you know, what I would like to see is a bit more of a mix in the maps. I would like to see more maps that, you know, are suitably proportioned in terms of what's going on with them in terms of air superiority. And you know, this morning I was thinking back to other Battlefields, and I was thinking through about air stuff. Now obviously back in Battlefield 2 you've obviously got the air things going on there, but through some of the best stuff like Battlefield Bad Company 2, now obviously it was console mainly, but I mean it's got the PC as well. Didn't really have a lot of air stuff happening there. We obviously had the transport and the attack helicopter, but they didn't have all this scout nonsense going on. And you know, often I think back to a lot of the game modes and a lot of the maps that played out the best. When you think about like Arica Harbour, when you think about like Harvest Day, those maps didn't have it going on in terms of the air superiority, and they were so much better for it. Those were the maps where you got always the strongest, most hard fought battle games. And I think I would like to see that a lot more. I would like to see, you know, we've got air superiority. I would like to see, you know, air negative. I don't want to have aircraft in the rounds. I would like to have Conquest rounds, but that just don't have aircraft in them. I think it would be very beneficial. It would mean that, you know, because often you end up with a lot of people in those aircraft. Think about the transport, think about the scout, you have like 4 people up in it. That's like a squad almost. And you know, you multiply that up a couple of times and you end up with a lot of people in the air. And I've commented about this before. And you know, worse as well is I left this kill in because it was really good. Notice how they've got like the recon point there. So whilst I got killed there, I was communicating and directing my guys to the recon point and making sure that they understood exactly where those guys were, making sure to neutralise and do it, because they took us all out. Really important to get back and neutralise that team. Anyway, yeah, having the aircraft up constantly, I mean, it sort of debilitates the ground fighting. I often feel like, you know, I often feel that there's not enough people on the ground and it would play out a lot better, even on 64 sometimes, you know, and it depends on the map. Now I'll tell you what as well, on the Conquest game that I've got coming up later on, where I said was much better round, that's a 64, and you know, a comment that Super made was that he said 64 on this map doesn't feel like 64. It really doesn't. You have small battles going all over the place, you can fight around, you never feel like kind of pinned down, claustrophobic, it's too much. It feels just right. And again, I feel like often that isn't the case for a lot of 64 player maps. It's one of the reasons why I don't play 64 player a lot of the time, and neither do a lot of people that I know. And you know, that's the thing as well, it's a bit silly. It's like, I don't have anything against 64 really. Like 64 should be a good thing, but it often isn't, mainly because of the map design. And I think on this one it plays out much better, and some of the others as well, it plays out a lot better. Not perhaps on the market map, but on something that, look at this pro driving skills from this guy. Yeah, L to drive. Anyway, so that was our thoughts about Conquest so far for Dragon's Teeth. It's just that it feels a lot better, and in many ways I feel like it's kind of a shame. I still kind of find a bit frustrated that the scout helicopter hasn't been slightly edited and tweaked in Battlefield, because I really feel that it is. I feel like, for one thing, what they could do is, you know, they could do with closing off one of the scout heli doors to prevent people like missiling from those doors so much. Overall, and also to stop people repping, you know, because if you have double repping, those scout helis are almost invincible. And you guys know this, you've seen my gameplay where I do it. You know, we're almost invincible until the team take a really, really concerted effort to take us down. But I feel like the scout heli for that reason could just do with a tweak. It pisses me off. Like if they just close one door, you could only have one repper, and I think that would be much more balanced overall. But anyway, so the Conquest feel, and I think particularly on this map, I'll talk a little bit about Propaganda as a map. This map plays out really, really well because it's a good balance map, okay? You've got really tight urban combat areas, you've got some nice destructibility on these sections that matter, you've got these large, wide open roads which provide sort of good sniping grounds. This is a kind of map as well where you as a sniper, for example, can play different play styles. You could play the kind of mid-range stuff where you're kind of in the buildings defending a base. You could play the long-range stuff, taking people down as they try to cross that street if you are skilled enough to do that. But I think really the main thing about Conquest in Dragon's Teeth is just the kind of balance overall. It's the balance of not being too much air superiority there, and again that's a positive thing. And then it's the mix of vehicles as well. Specifically on Propaganda, we've pretty much just got the MBTs and a couple of light little transports. And so, again, it feels that kind of classicness, where they don't have too many crazy different things going on. And again, it makes me think back mainly, I guess, to Bad Company 2, because often in Bad Company 2, the vehicles you would have available would just be MBTs, maybe a couple of, the Humvees, something like that. You just have some light vehicles ready. So it wouldn't be too much sort of crazy vehicles going on, wouldn't have the stupid AA tanks, wouldn't have the stupid LAVs, so, well, not stupid LAVs, they're fine, but it's more in terms of how many you have on the map at one time, and that's really the deal, is that often the vehicles, there's so much vehicle presence that it's kind of like Armored Kill, but not, there's so many vehicles all over the place constantly, and again, that kind of then negatively impacts on the infantry gameplay, and I think that's what we see in the Dragon's Teeth DLC for these maps here, is the kind of nice balance between infantry and armoured gameplay, because some maps when you're playing on them, it's kind of like you have almost no option but to kind of go for the armoured, mainly because there's just so many other things. Let's not forget as well the boats, the crazy full-on attack boats and all this kind of stuff. And again, that's not a bad thing. I don't mind the attack boats, but sometimes that in combination with the amount of armour, the amount of air superiority. I mean, I'm thinking of maps like Lankang Dam, okay? Lankang is a very kind of vehicle-centric map anyway, but it's kind of overkill. I often feel like those two bases up there on the dam itself, and even the island, I feel like they would play out very, very well if there was just a little bit more focus on the infantry. But I mean, think about it. How many games of Lankang Dam on Conquest Large have you played where you've spent the majority of your time on the infantry? Maybe a few, but probably very little, because a lot of the time you have to take those vehicles to get in on the bases in the first place, then you've got to worry about the air, then you've got to worry about the boats, then you've got to worry about the AA tank, then you've got to worry about the LAVs, the MBTs, all that stuff. You got all of that comes as a priority before you think about infantry gameplay. It really does. And so when you think about that, I mean, if you love that kind of armored vehicle gameplay, then great. If you love that kind of play, then it's all about it. But for me, I don't think it's balanced well enough. I think in maps like that, and there are others as well, that I just feel like it doesn't push enough focus on the kind of infantry gameplay, and so you end up just constantly having no option but to go down that route, and you don't really have a choice. I think that's really the key, is that you don't feel like you have a choice. And in the Dragon's Teeth map so far for Conquest Large and Conquest, I felt like you do. You can choose between what it is that you want to do. And I think it's just a positive thing. So I would say get on for yourself, try it out, see how it compares to normal Conquest on sort of the standard maps that we've had on other DLCs as well. Because it just plays out differently, it feels different, I like the feel of it. And again, so far, without maybe wanting to be sort of too presumptuous, I find that I'm actually quite liking the Dragon's Teeth DLC overall. I find that I have not that much to say for it in terms of negativity. I don't think there's that much to say for it in terms of negativity. The only thing that I do have to say in terms of negativity is, as I've said for the past 2 weeks, month, whatever, is the player base. The maps and game modes that we have had, that whether the rounds sucked, it was mainly due to the players, them not engaging in the map well enough, not engaging in the game well enough, getting pushed back, trapped, just 800 ticket deficits. That's what spoiled the maps and the games for us so far. But in terms of the actual maps and the way they play out for themselves, it's actually been really positive. I mean, look at this, we're like 5 capped, you know, it's working really, really good. And so this is the kind of example of the gameplay that we've been having, where it is just a rollover, and it's not a good thing, not a good thing at all. But again, hopefully we're going to resolve that if I do get this server on the go. And if you guys know any objective servers, feel free to drop that below. In regards to the server, I will be sort of setting that up and looking into that. I've already been researching it a little bit. It's probably not going to happen until I finish my surgery, because there's just no point me getting in and setting it all up before that happens. So it's probably going to be a week or two before I actually get it on the go. But I am sort of prepping and sort of researching who it is and what it is that I'm going to do. But then when that comes in, you can expect to come and play on that server. So I'm looking forward to that very, very much. So yeah, this is the game mode so far. What are your thoughts about it? Let me know if you've been playing Conquest. Let me know if it stacks up against normal Conquest, the differences between. Would you like to see a non-aircraft mode? Would you like to see, like, instead of air superiority, just air negative, you know, no aircraft on the maps but play out like Conquest? It would be a really good thing. And to be honest as well, you know, we have server options already when it comes to disabling vehicles, what we want to have on, whether you want to go infantry only, etc. But what I'd really like to see is the ability for servers to be able to individually disable certain vehicles. So just toggle them on or off. I mean, maybe that would be too specific. Maybe you could just choose, say, for example, you know, toggle air vehicles off, toggle ground vehicles off, so you could have just infantry and air, or you just have ground vehicles and infantry. I think that could be a positive change in terms of just changing up the gameplay, making it more interesting, and potentially more objective overall for the players themselves. Some more DLC stuff coming up for me this week, guys, including some looks at the maps, overviews of the DLC itself, the assignments, what we're thinking about, how those have kind of been set up for this, and potentially some of the weapons as well, but we'll see how we get on with that. As always, drop your thoughts below. If you like the video, drop a little rating, give me a like, and subscribe. Thanks for watching, thanks for supporting the channel, thanks for getting me to 45k today. Big, well, mini milestone for me. 50k is where we're aiming, but, you know, great to cross that one today as well. So thanks for watching, guys. I'll see you next time for some more Battlefield 4.